Welcome, my friend. Welcome to this quiet space, this gentle space, where we slow everything down together, and we breathe, and we listen, and we learn in the most peaceful way possible. Today, on this channel, Motivate to Speak, we are going to sit together, and we are going to explore one of the most powerful stories ever told, the story of Nelson Mandela, an inspirational biography. And I want you to feel from the very first moment that you are safe here. You are welcome here, no matter your level of English. No matter how many times you have tried and stopped, you are exactly where you need to be, right now, in this moment. So take a breath with me, slowly, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Beautiful. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest. You don't need to rush. You don't need to understand every single word. All you need to do is listen and feel and trust that your English is growing quietly, gently, the way a tree grows. You don't see it happening, but it is always happening. That is the most important thing I want you to remember today. Growth is always happening, even when you cannot see it. Now, before we begin the story of Nelson Mandela, I want to talk to you for a moment about something very simple, something we forget sometimes when we are learning a language. We forget that language is not about perfection. Language is about connection. It is about reaching across the space between two people and saying, I understand you. I hear you. I am here with you. Nelson Mandela understood this. He understood the power of words, the power of connection, the power of sitting with another human being and saying, I see you. And that is what I want to do with you today. I see you. I know you are working hard. I know some days feel difficult. And I want you to know that is completely normal. It is part of the journey. So, let's begin, slowly, gently, the way all beautiful things begin. Nelson Mandela was born on the 18th of July in the year 1918. That is, 1918. He was born in a small village in a beautiful part of South Africa called the Eastern Cape. Now, if you close your eyes for just a moment, I want you to imagine this place. Green hills, wide open sky, the sound of birds, the smell of earth after rain, a small, simple home, a community of people who knew each other, who looked after each other, who lived together in the old ways. This is where Nelson Mandela came into the world. His birth name, the name his family gave him, was Rolihlahla. Say that gently with me if you like. Rolihlahla. It is a name from the Xhosa language, one of the beautiful languages of South Africa. And this name, Rolihlahla, it means something very interesting. It means one who pulls the branch of a tree, or in everyday language, it means someone who makes trouble, someone who shakes things up, someone who disrupts the quiet. And when you look at his life, when you truly sit with his story, you realize that name was perfect, because Nelson Mandela was someone who pulled the branch, who shook the tree of injustice, who refused to let the world stay quiet when it needed to speak. But when he was a young boy, he did not know any of this yet. He was just a boy, a curious boy, a boy who loved to listen to the elders speak. He would sit beside the older men and women of his community, and he would listen for hours. He loved stories. He loved wisdom. He loved the feeling of learning something new. Can you relate to that feeling? That feeling of sitting quietly and taking in the world around you? I think many of you can, because you are here doing exactly that right now. Now, the name Nelson came later. When he started school as a young child, his teacher gave him an English name, as was common in South Africa at that time. She called him Nelson, and so the world came to know him as Nelson Mandela, a name that would one day echo across every country, every language, every corner of the human heart. Let us pause here for a moment. I want to teach you something gently, something that will help you in your everyday English life. When we talk about someone's name and where it comes from, we often use a phrase, "he was known as," or "she came to be known as." This is a beautiful, soft way of speaking. He came to be known as Nelson. It means, over time, people started calling him Nelson. It wasn't always that way, but slowly it became the name the world recognized. Now repeat slowly after me. Take your time, there is no rush. He came to be known. Say it again. He came to be known. One more time, gently, like you mean it. He came to be known as Nelson Mandela. Beautiful. You just said something meaningful. You just said something true. That is not just language practice. That is a piece of real history living in your voice now. Take a breath. Let's continue. Nelson Mandela grew up in a time of great pain in South Africa, a time of a system called apartheid. Now, apartheid, that is a word I want to explain to you very gently, because it is an important word and it represents something very heavy in history. Apartheid was a system of laws created by the government that separated people based on the color of their skin. That means if your skin was dark, if you were a black South African, you were treated differently. You could not go to the same schools, you could not live in the same neighborhoods, you could not use the same buses, you could not vote, you could not choose your own life in your own country. Can you imagine that? Can you sit with that for a moment? Imagine being told by the government, by the law, that you are less, that you are not equal simply because of the color of your skin. It is a deeply painful thing to imagine, and it was a deeply painful thing to live. And Nelson Mandela, as he grew older, as he began to understand the world around him, he felt this pain, not just in his own life, but in the lives of everyone around him. He saw his mother working until her hands were tired. He saw men in his community bowing their heads, not in prayer, but in fear. He saw children who could not go to school, who could not dream freely. And something inside him, something very quiet and very strong, said, "This is not right. This must change. Someone must stand up." And so, slowly, over years, Nelson Mandela became that someone. He moved to the city of Johannesburg, a big, busy, loud city, full of energy and possibility, but also full of the sharp edges of inequality. He studied law. He became a lawyer, not just to earn money, but because he understood that the law could be a weapon, or it could be a shield, and he wanted to use it as a shield to protect his people. He joined the African National Congress, a political organization, often called simply the ANC, a group of people who believed in freedom, who believed in equality, who believed that one day South Africa would belong to all its people, not just some of them. In those early years, Mandela believed in peaceful protest. He believed in marching, in speaking, in writing, in using words to change the world. And he tried, oh, how he tried. But the government did not listen. Instead, they made more laws, harsher laws, laws designed to silence people like Mandela, to stop them from speaking, from gathering, from dreaming out loud. Let me tell you a story now, a small human story that lives inside the bigger story of Mandela's life. There was a time in the early 1950s when Mandela was a young lawyer in Johannesburg. He was walking to work one morning. The city was waking up around him. The smell of bread from a bakery, the sound of trucks, the distant shout of a street vendor. And Mandela was wearing a nice suit. He had worked hard to buy that suit. It was important to him to look professional, to be taken seriously. And as he walked, a white police officer stopped him on the street for no reason, just stopped him and demanded to see his papers. In apartheid South Africa, black South Africans had to carry special identity documents called passes at all times. If you didn't have your pass, you could be arrested, just like that, just for walking down the street. Mandela had his papers. He showed them calmly. The officer looked at them, looked at Mandela, and said nothing. He just walked away. No apology, no acknowledgement, just silence. And Mandela stood there in his nice suit in the morning sun, and he felt something. He felt the full weight of what it meant to be seen as less than in your own city, in your own country, on your own street. But here is what I want you to feel about this moment. Mandela did not let that moment destroy him. He let it fuel him. He turned the pain into purpose. He walked the rest of the way to his office, sat down at his desk, and worked harder than ever before. Because he knew change does not come from bitterness. Change comes from commitment. Those words, that speech, it is one of the most powerful pieces of spoken English in all of human history. And I want you to feel that. Language, your English language can carry that kind of power. Your words matter. Your voice matters. He was sentenced to life in prison. Life in prison. Can you imagine? Not 5 years, not 10 years, but life. The judge essentially said, "You will die in this prison." And Mandela was taken to a place called Robben Island, a cold, gray island in the ocean off the coast of Cape Town, and he was put in a small concrete cell. The cell measured approximately 2 meters by 2.5 meters. That is roughly the size of a large bathroom. A man who had walked freely through the city, who had stood in courtrooms and spoken of freedom, was now living in a space the size of a large bathroom. And he would live there for the next 18 of his 27 years in prison. 27 years. Let that number sit with you for a moment. 27 years. Some of you watching this video were not even born 27 years ago. Think about how much life fits into 27 years. How many mornings, how many seasons, how many birthdays, how many moments. And Mandela lived all of those moments in a small, cold cell, away from his family, away from his freedom. That is such an important lesson for all of us, not just in learning English, but in life. When something or someone makes you feel small, you have a choice. You can shrink or you can grow. Mandela always chose to grow. Now let's practice something together. Repeat slowly after me. Feel the words as you say them. Change does not come from bitterness. Say it again. Change does not come from bitterness. Now the whole thought. Change does not come from bitterness. Change comes from commitment. One more time, slowly, with all the weight of those words. Change does not come from bitterness. Change comes from commitment. Yes, you are doing beautifully. Keep breathing. Keep feeling. Let's continue our journey through this remarkable life. As the years passed, the peaceful protests continued, but the government's response grew more and more violent. There were moments of terrible tragedy. The most heartbreaking was a day called the Sharpeville Massacre in 1960, when police opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing 69 people. Many of them were shot in the back, which means they were running away, and still they were shot. The whole world was watching. Many countries were horrified. And inside South Africa, something shifted. People realized the government was not going to give up power peacefully. And so, with deep sadness and after much debate, some members of the ANC, including Mandela, made the painful decision to take a different approach. They formed a military branch to resist the government, not to attack innocent people, but to strike at the symbols of apartheid, to sabotage. That word, sabotage, means to deliberately damage or destroy things. To damage government buildings, power stations, infrastructure, to make the system of apartheid harder to maintain. This was a decision that weighed heavily on Mandela. He was not a violent man by nature. He was a father, a husband, a lawyer, a lover of poetry and boxing. Yes, Mandela loved boxing. He said it taught him discipline and strategy and respect. He was a deeply human man, full of contradictions and passions, like all of us. But he believed that sometimes, in extreme situations, you must make difficult choices, and he made his choice. And then, in 1962, the government caught him. Nelson Mandela was arrested and put on trial. He stood in that courtroom, and instead of defending himself quietly, instead of trying to seem small and safe, he spoke. He stood tall, and he spoke. He said words that have echoed through history. He said he was prepared to die for a democratic and free society. He said he wanted all people, both black and white, to live together in harmony with equal opportunities. Let me share something with you now, something that I find almost impossible to comprehend, something that makes me go very quiet inside when I think about it. During those 27 years, Mandela was offered his freedom several times. The government came to him and said, "We will release you if you renounce violence, if you publicly denounce the ANC, if you agree to stop fighting." And every single time, Mandela said no. He said no. He chose to stay in prison rather than compromise the freedom of his people. He said, and I want you to feel the weight of this, he said that his freedom without the freedom of his people meant nothing to him. Can you feel the magnitude of that? He chose the idea of freedom, the principle of freedom, over the actual physical experience of his own freedom. That is not just bravery. That is something beyond bravery. It is a kind of love, a fierce, quiet, unbreakable love for people he had never even met, for people not yet born, for the idea of a South Africa that could one day be free and equal. And here is something that moves me deeply, something I want to offer to you as a gift today. Even in prison, Mandela kept learning. He studied by correspondence, which means he received his study materials by mail in prison. He earned a law degree. He read voraciously. That word voraciously means with great eagerness, with hunger. He read everything he could get his hands on, books of history, books of poetry, books of politics, books of philosophy. He understood, even in a cell with no freedom, that no one could imprison his mind, no one could lock away his curiosity, no one could take from him the person he was becoming. And that, my friend, is perhaps the most powerful English learning lesson I can offer you today. Your mind is free. Your curiosity is free. No difficulty, no embarrassment, no bad day, no past failure can take from you the person you are becoming. Take a breath with me now. In and out slowly. Beautiful. Let's practice together now. This next phrase is from the spirit of what Mandela lived. Repeat slowly after me. No one could imprison his mind. Again, no one could imprison his mind. Now say it like you mean it, like you're telling someone something true. No one could imprison my mind. Now change it, make it personal. No one can imprison my mind. Say it again. No one can imprison my mind. One final time, slowly, with your whole heart. No one can imprison my mind. Yes, that is yours now. That sentence lives in you, in your voice, in your memory. Let's continue. The years passed on Robben Island, and then Mandela was moved to other prisons, Pollsmoor Prison, and later Victor Verster Prison. And all this time, outside the prison walls, the world was changing. The movement against apartheid was growing louder. People across South Africa were marching, singing, demanding freedom. Young people in the townships, those were the neighborhoods where black South Africans were forced to live. Young people were rising up at great personal risk, facing police violence, facing arrest, but continuing to say, "We want to be free." And around the world, people were listening. Countries started putting pressure on South Africa through something called sanctions. Sanctions means refusing to trade with a country, refusing to do business with them, as a way of saying, we do not agree with what you are doing, we will not support it. The cultural boycott was also happening. Musicians, artists, athletes around the world were saying, we will not perform in South Africa, we will not participate in a system of injustice. And the name Nelson Mandela, this man locked away on an island, became a symbol, a rallying point, a name whispered with hope by millions of people who had never met him and never seen his face. Because for many years, his image was banned. The South African government made it illegal to show photographs of Mandela. They were afraid, you see, of what a face can do, of what a name can do when it carries the weight of justice. But you cannot ban an idea. You cannot arrest a dream. And then, on the 11th of February, 1990, something happened that made the whole world stop and hold its breath. The gates of Victor Verster Prison opened, and Nelson Mandela walked out. He was 71 years old. His hair had turned gray. His body had aged, but his eyes, those eyes, still carried the same quiet fire, the same warmth, the same unbroken spirit. He walked out holding the hand of his then-wife Winnie, and he raised his fist, and the world erupted. People wept in the streets of Johannesburg. People wept in London, in New York, in Tokyo, in small villages across Africa. People who had been waiting for this moment for 27 years just wept. Because sometimes, when justice finally arrives, it is so beautiful, it is so overwhelming that all you can do is cry. I want to pause here because I think it's important to sit with that image for a moment. A man walking out of prison after 27 years, not broken, not bitter, not filled with rage and revenge, but tall and warm and ready to build. How do you walk out of 27 years of imprisonment and choose love over hate? How do you do that? Mandela was once asked this. He was asked, how could you forgive? How could you look at the people who took 27 years of your life and choose reconciliation, choose togetherness, choose peace? And he said something that I want you to carry with you. He said that as he walked out of prison, he knew that if he didn't leave his hatred behind, he would still be in prison. Still in prison, even though the doors were open. Think about that. If we carry our bitterness, if we carry our anger, if we carry every person who hurt us, every mistake we made, every time we felt embarrassed or small. We are in a prison of our own making, even though the doors are open, even though we are free. Mandela chose to walk out, fully, completely, with nothing heavy in his hands. That is the kind of freedom I want for you, my friend. Not just freedom in your English, but freedom in your heart. Freedom to begin again. Freedom to show up, even when it's hard, even when you're afraid, even when you feel like you've been in your own small cell for too long. Take a breath, in and out. Now, let's practice this together. This next phrase, I want you to feel it in your body. Repeat slowly after me. If I carry my bitterness, I am still in prison. Again. If I carry my bitterness, I am still in prison. Now say it the other way. When I let go, I become free. Again. Gently. When I let go, I become free. One more time. Slowly. Like a breath itself. When I let go, I become free. You said that beautifully. I want you to know that. Let's keep walking through this story. After his release, the work truly began, because now Mandela had to do something even harder than surviving prison. He had to help build a country. He had to lead negotiations between the ANC and the apartheid government. Long, difficult, complicated conversations about how to dismantle a system of injustice without tearing the country apart, without violence, without chaos. And when he spoke at his inauguration, that beautiful, historic speech, he spoke not of himself, but of his country, of his people, of the sun that was rising over a new South Africa. He served as president for 5 years, and then, in a move that surprised many people, he stepped down, voluntarily. He didn't seek a second term, he didn't try to stay in power. He believed deeply in democracy, in the principle that power must be shared, must be transferred, must remain in the hands of the people. He stepped down and handed over a country that was still imperfect, still healing, still learning how to be, but a country that was free, a country that was trying, a country that was moving forward. And after the presidency, Mandela did not stop. He worked for AIDS awareness, particularly for the millions of South Africans affected by HIV. He spoke up when other leaders stayed silent. He worked for children's education. He worked for peace in other African countries. He spoke and spoke and spoke with that gentle authority that only comes from having lived deeply, from having paid the full price for your beliefs. Nelson Mandela passed away on the 5th of December, 2013, at the age of 95. When he died, the world went quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that comes after something very large, very important, passes. People left flowers outside the South African embassy in London, in Washington, in cities across the world. People lit candles. People played music. People held each other and said, "We will not forget. We will try to carry it forward. We will try to be a little more like him."
There were people on all sides who were angry, who were afraid, who wanted revenge, or who wanted to hold on to power. And Mandela had to walk between all of these feelings, all of these forces, with his hands open, with patience, with extraordinary wisdom. He spent years in those negotiations, years of meetings and setbacks and heartbreaks and small, fragile moments of progress. And then, in 1994, something happened that had never happened before in the history of South Africa. A free, democratic election. For the first time, every South African, black and white and every color in between, every person had the right to vote. And on the day of that election, the lines of people waiting to vote stretched for miles. Elderly people who had never voted in their entire lives stood in those lines for hours under the African sun. Their legs were tired, their bodies were old, but they stood because they were finally being asked, "What do you think? What do you want? Who do you choose?" There is something in my heart when I imagine those lines. When I imagine someone who is 80 years old, standing in a line for the first time, holding that ballot paper, making their mark. Because a ballot paper is not just paper, it is a voice, it is a declaration. I am here, I exist, I count. And on the 10th of May, 1994, Nelson Mandela, the boy from a small village in the Eastern Cape, the young lawyer who was stopped on the street, the prisoner of Robben Island, became the first democratically elected president of South Africa. He was 75 years old.
And that, my friend, is perhaps the greatest gift a human life can leave behind. Not buildings, not statues, not monuments, but the desire in other people to be a little better, to be a little kinder, a little more patient, a little more brave. When Nelson Mandela died, millions of people quietly said to themselves, "I want to be better. Because of him, I want to be better." And isn't that what we are doing here today? In this small, quiet way, with our English, with our voices, we are trying to be better. We are trying to grow. We are showing up for ourselves, and that is something worth celebrating. Let's practice together one more time. I want you to take a breath, in through your nose, slowly, and out through your mouth. And now repeat after me, slowly and meaningfully. I am trying. Again, I am trying. Now the full thought, I am trying, and that is enough. Say it again, I am trying, and that is enough. One more time, with kindness toward yourself. I am trying, and that is enough. Yes, it really is. I promise you that.
Now let me teach you some of the vocabulary from today's story, but slowly, gently, with examples from everyday life, because that is how words truly become yours. The first word is dignity. Dignity is the feeling of being worthy, of deserving respect. When you walk into a room and you carry yourself calmly, when you speak without apology, when you treat yourself and others with care, that is dignity. Mandela had extraordinary dignity, even in prison, even in suffering. He never lost the quiet knowledge that he was worthy of respect. You have dignity too. Even when you mispronounce a word, even when you have to ask someone to repeat themselves, even when your English is not perfect, you have dignity. Don't ever let anyone take that from you. The second word is resilience. Resilience. Say it slowly with me. Res-il-e-ence. Resilience means the ability to recover from difficulties, to bounce back, like a tree in the wind. The tree bends, sometimes it bends very far, but it does not break. And when the wind stops, the tree straightens again. Mandela's resilience was extraordinary. But resilience is not something only great leaders have. You have it too. Every time you came back to learning English after a break, that was resilience. Every time you tried again, that was resilience. Don't underestimate your own resilience. The third word is reconciliation. Reconciliation means the process of making peace after conflict, of choosing to move forward together rather than staying divided. Mandela believed in reconciliation with his whole heart. He believed that the black South Africans and the white South Africans had to find a way to be one people, one nation, one future. Reconciliation is something we can practice in our own lives too, with people who have hurt us, with parts of ourselves we don't like. We can choose reconciliation. We can choose to say, I am not going to carry this anymore. I am going to move towards something lighter. The fourth word is perseverance. Perseverance means continuing to do something even when it is very hard, even when you want to stop, even when everything seems against you. Mandela showed perseverance for decades. He never stopped believing that change was possible. Even after years in prison, even when the world seemed to be moving slowly, he kept holding on to the vision of a free South Africa. Your perseverance in learning English, your decision to keep showing up, to keep listening, to keep trying, that is real and meaningful perseverance. I see it in you, even from here. And the fifth word is hope. I know you know this word, but I want to say it slowly, because sometimes the most familiar words carry the most forgotten power. Hope is the belief that things can be better, that the future holds something good, even when the present is difficult. Hope is not passive. Hope is not just wishing. Hope is active. Hope gets up in the morning. Hope opens a YouTube video and presses play. Hope says, "Today I am going to try." That is you. You are hope in action. Let me share one more story with you. A quiet story. A human story. There's a story told by people who worked with Mandela after he became president. They say that no matter how busy his schedule was, no matter how many world leaders were waiting to meet with him, Mandela would always stop and greet every single person in the room. Not just the presidents and the ministers and the journalists, but the cleaners, the cooks, the drivers, the security guards. He would look them in the eyes, say their name if he knew it, ask how they were doing, and he meant it. He genuinely wanted to know. Because Mandela believed, truly believed, that every human being deserves to feel seen, that the cleaner at the door is as worthy of acknowledgement as the president at the table. There is a word for this in the Zulu language, another beautiful South African language. The word is Ubuntu, and it means, I am because we are. My humanity is connected to your humanity. Your dignity makes my dignity possible. When I see you, truly see you, I am more fully myself. Ubuntu, I am because we are. I love that. I think about it often. And I think it applies to our little community here on this channel. You are not learning English alone. We are learning together. Your growth makes this community richer. Your voice adds something that no one else can add, because there is no one else quite like you. Ubuntu, I am because we are.
Now, I want to do something special with you before we come to the end of our time together today. I want to do one final slow practice, and I want you to bring everything we have talked about today into these sentences. The spirit of Mandela, the feeling of dignity, of resilience, of hope. Take a breath first, slowly. In and out. Now, repeat after me. I believe in myself. Again, I believe in myself. Now the next line, even when it is difficult. Say it again, even when it is difficult. Now together, I believe in myself. Even when it is difficult. Again, I believe in myself. Even when it is difficult. And now the final thought, I will keep going. Again, I will keep going. The whole thing now, beautifully, slowly. I believe in myself. Even when it is difficult. I will keep going. One more time. I believe in myself. Even when it is difficult. I will keep going. Yes, that is yours. That is absolutely yours.
And I want you to know, from the bottom of my heart, that I am proud of you. I know that might sound like a strange thing to say. We have not met. We are separated by a screen, by distance, by different cities and countries and lives. But I know that you are here. And I know that being here took something. It took a decision. It took courage. It took the quiet belief that you are worth investing in. And that belief, that decision, that courage, it moves me. You are not just learning English. You are showing up for yourself. You are building something, brick by quiet brick, day by quiet day. And I want you to remember the way Mandela left prison with nothing heavy in his hands. I want you to let go of any shame you carry about your English. Let go of any embarrassment from past mistakes. Let go of the voice that says you are too old or too slow or too far behind. Walk out of that prison. Walk out with your head up and your hands open, because you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. You are here, you are trying, and you are growing. Before I let you go today, I want to invite you to do something simple. Leave a comment below, just one sentence. Write one thing from today's lesson that touched your heart, or one word you are going to remember. Or simply write, "I will keep going," and know that every person who reads your comment will be encouraged by it. If today's story moved you, if this quiet space felt good to you, please share it with one person in your life who is learning English, because together we grow more. Ubuntu.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, Motivate to Speak, because every week we sit together like this and we take these slow, beautiful journeys through language and story and life, and I would love for you to be part of that. There is so much more to explore, so many more stories, so many more quiet moments, so many more words waiting to find a home in your heart. And I will be here every step of the way. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for the simple and beautiful act of listening. Nelson Mandela once said that it always seems impossible until it is done. It always seems impossible until it is done. Your English may sometimes feel impossible. The perfect sentence may feel far away. The right word may hide from you just when you need it. But you are doing it. You are doing it right now. And one day, not far from today, you will look back at this moment, this quiet afternoon or evening or morning when you pressed play, and you will smile because you will see how far you have come. It always seems impossible until it is done. Go gently, my friend. Go kindly toward yourself, toward your dreams, toward the language that is slowly, beautifully becoming yours. Until next time, take care of yourself. Breathe slowly. Speak bravely. And I will see you in the next slow listening lesson, my friend.